Okay, well, I'm pretty much situated now. I'm ready to go. Is there anything I have forgotten? It is New York City. It is December. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Actually, it's 9. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. And I am about to leave on an adventure. And so I packed the car. I got my computer stuff, my camera stuff, some food, a few changes of clothes, got some cash, and I know where I'm going, so I think it's time. All morning I've been parking this car, or not parking the car, I've been bringing my stuff to the car, bit by bit. And everyone's always like, are you gonna leave? They're desperate for this damn parking space, and I don't blame them. Parking in New York, it's a hassle, but that's where my story begins. That's where I am currently living, and let me concentrate. Okay, so there's this guy across the street, and he just saw me slowly inch out of this space, and he just leapt to his car. He is so eager for this space. I don't blame him though. Parking is impossible. Well, it's not impossible if you don't have a 9-to-5 job, because what they do is they have this scenario where it's alternate side parking, which means that twice a week you have to come in. Oh, okay, I gotta take a left here, even though I wasn't really planning on taking a left. I will have to go up and take the next right. So I am heading to the west side. And I am taking the Lincoln Tunnel. Whoa. I'm taking the Lincoln Tunnel. I'm heading west. My ultimate destination today is Roanoke, Virginia, where I'm going to meet my friend Marty, and I'll interview him, and you'll get to find out about Marty. Yeah, I'm sorry if sometimes I don't speak during the video, because I am actively driving, trying to be responsible, of course. So there might be periods of time in this video when I don't speak, or when I say stupid things because I'm concentrating on something else. But I have to thread the needle with this one. To get to the west side and start heading south and go to the Lincoln Tunnel. Then I have to take 495 west through New Jersey a little bit until I get to 95 and then go south. I'm actually a really good driver. I've driven cross country many, many times, but I've never filmed it. And so my idea with this is, you know, I'm going to have a lot of time on my hands. And one of the things I've been getting into recently, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I've been putting up a lot of videos. I got a new video camera that makes it really easy. Like, I don't have to do very much editing at all. And yeah, so I've been doing a lot of videos, and I'm gonna have a lot of time on my hands, so I'm just gonna tell my life story as best as I can in a car, impromptu, with no script. But yeah, my life story changed, and it changed on 9/11 because I witnessed a strange fire. And so that's what I'm calling this book, Strange Fire. I guess you could call it a book. It might become a book, but I'm not a writer. And I don't pretend to be. I don't want to be one. And unless I'm wealthy enough to be able to hire a writer, I'm really, the writing I'm going to do is going to be somewhat amateurish. Now, I'm a native speaker of English. That is not an issue here. So Riverside, if I'm allowed to go south, which I might not be, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Oh yeah, I have a standard transmission, so it might be a little jerky here and there. Okay. So I know I was saying something. Oh, me not being a writer. Yeah, I'm not a writer. And I don't want to become one. Or I'm, inevitably I do write things. I've written papers. But this is important to me. Telling my story is important to me. And I want to get it right. And I don't think I'm going to be as good in the medium of writing a book as I might be on a video. So I want to tell my life story in chunks on video. And I've already really begun. I've interviewed some of my current friends. This is funny, it's my life story, but it starts out right now. This is what's going on right now. I interviewed RJ, who I've known for, it's more than a dozen years. It's nearing 13 years. So I met a lot of people when I moved to New York City. In fact, I met more people in 1 year than I had met in the entire sum of the previous 30 years of my life. So I know a lot of people for that long. And New York is my home. I feel at home here. But in a way, I'm kind of homeless. I'm kind of rootless. There's not a lot keeping me in New York City. There was a point in time when there was nothing that could keep me out of this city. But that time it's kind of over. So here we come. I was gonna get on the Hudson Parkway earlier, but now we're going on 79th Street. We need to go south to the Lincoln Tunnel. Traffic is not bad, but it's freaking cold out. It is cold out. And nowhere I'm going, it's going to be warm. I'm like, why don't I have friends that live in warm places? Well, I actually do. I have a friend who lives in Florida. I'm thinking about visiting Florida. And my family's from Houston, and I was actually born in Houston, too. So I guess I could go to Houston, but I may not. My itinerary is west, but not necessarily southwest. First real stop is Roanoke. Although there might be someone else I want to visit in Virginia. Good. South. Yes. So I'm not a writer, but what am I? It's kind of complicated. I have 2 graduate degrees and an undergrad. Excuse me. Heading south. The light changes, so I guess you can tell if you do the triangulation, you know what time it is. So I got an undergraduate degree in biology from Washington University in St. Louis. And when I went there, that school that school slightly had the reputation of being a second choice school for a lot of students on the East Coast. And some people here called Washington University the Harvard of the Midwest. But it was people's second tier choice. But actually not in the area of biomedical science. You know, anything biology related, WashU was tops. WashU was, you know, top 3 regularly, and, you know, never leaves the top 10 in biology, and overall has, you know, stayed in the top 20 ever since, you know, before I was a student there. We call it we say that Harvard is the WashU of the East Coast. Does that make sense? Yeah, you know, at WashU we say that Harvard is the WashU of the East Coast, instead of the joke, which is usually the other way around, that WashU is the Harvard of the Midwest. But WashU was a great school. It, you know, it did have, you know, aspects of what you might think are the typical, you know, university scene, with, you know, the old looking buildings with the ivy on them and the big trees and the quad with students throwing frisbees back and forth. And it had everything like that. It had dormitories, it had fraternities and sororities. And the funny thing is that a lot of people's idea of what college is like is actually based somewhat on Washington University, because Harold Ramis went to Washington University, and he was in a fraternity, and he wrote Animal House about his experiences with fraternities at WashU. So, you know, or you hear toga, 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 everyone's toga partying, drinking, playing pranks and stuff like that, getting on academic probation and suspension, all that stuff. I don't know. So even when I was a teenager, my idea of what college was like was pretty close to what my actual experience was like in college. And I studied biology, and I actually started doing independent research in biomedical laboratory because I was on financial aid, and so they required you to have some kind of job. And I said, well, if I'm going to have some kind of job, I'm going to have a job that's worthwhile. So I used my, you know, whatever financial aid package to get a job in the laboratory. And I'm 19 years old, and the professor doesn't have any money, right? So he's using really old equipment from long ago, things like that. He wasn't actually doing any work at all, except for paperwork, reading and writing, and also teaching. And so he gives me a couple of papers to read, and he points me to the equipment, and he says, well, have fun. And so by myself I set up this whole equipment. I mean, of course I sought help with other people, but what I did was I set up these chromatography tubes, and I used them to separate the proteins in the blood. And we were looking at this one particular protein that was thought to be in abundance in immune complexes of certain eye diseases. And so basically you put the protein at the top of the column and it separates it out. People know a little bit about color chromatography, things like that, where you have dyes that can separate out based on color, but these columns can separate out proteins based on size. And so we were looking at one particular protein, and we were questioning whether or not it's present in the immune complexes of these rabbits who had been artificially given this disease of the eye. So that was my first project.